Okay, so I didn't keep the camera running while I was making the meringue and whipping the yolks, but it probably only took a few minutes, 5 at most. So the yolks are light in color and thick, and about 3 times their volume. So that's what they should look like, okay? And then the whites, or the French meringue, is shiny and moist looking, full volume, but not dried out, and hold its form. Okay, so that's what you're looking for with both of those things. And I'm just shaking the whip to get as much meringue off as possible. Then the other step that needs to get done is the sifting of the flour. I didn't do it while the yolks and the whites were whipping because I wanted to show you that you can do that while to save time while those your yolks or whites are in the mixer, but I'll show you real quick. So this is my all-purpose. I don't want there to be any lumps whatsoever, and if you're using cake flour or pastry flour, you absolutely have to do the sifting. With all-purpose, if it doesn't look like it has lumps, it's not necessary, but it's a good idea. So into the strainer, into the wire strainer, onto a piece of parchment, and very quickly get it all sifted. Okay, so now we have, again, for the separated egg sponge method, we have our whipped yolks and sugar separate from our whites and sugar and our flour. And everything is going to get folded together. Ordinarily, I'm trying to think of it. Ordinarily, you would do your whites into your yolks and then alternate with the flour. But because my larger bowl is with the whites, I think I'm going to do it reverse. It doesn't matter. Actually, I'm going to show you one step first that I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of the whites, not a lot, put it with the yolks using a soft rubber spatula, and do a quick fold. And the reason you do this is because it lightens the yolks and makes it a more similar consistency to the whites. So then when you fold them all together, it should fold more easily. Okay, so I do that a few times. And like I said, the purpose of that step was to lighten the consistency of the yolks. Okay, so now that I have that done, it's all gonna go here. Because this is a small quantity, I'm not going to alternate with the flour. If I was doing a full batch, I would probably alternate a couple of times, but what I'm gonna do is just put everything in together and start folding. Okay, so I do want to make use of my rubber spatula to remove everything that I can of the yolks so that we have the full amount of the recipe and I'm not wasting anything. Okay, so that's good. Then, because I sifted the flour on the parchment, it's very, very clean and easy to transfer. And I'm just gonna gently spread it around. Okay. Sorry about the extra noise. So now we want to fold. And the folding motion is just simply turning the bottom of the bowl on top and we want to keep folding gently until all of the dry ingredients are incorporated. You don't want to over mix or over fold. I'm also looking for the whites so that there's no more chunks of white. And now get the flour all off the sides. You can see it's still full of air and full of volume. It's almost done. Do a quick cleaning of the spatula. If you were to overmix, the worry is that you deflate your batter. The Ladyfinger sponge batter is very light and very airy. Okay, so we're just about there. I just see some whites at the bottom, and as soon as I have that, okay, that looks good. So what I was hoping to do and to show you is I am going to show you how to spread the batter as a cake. And then I'm gonna do some piping of the Ladyfingers. So what I've done for the cake is I'm planning for my tiramisu that I'm gonna make it in this 8-inch cake ring, okay? So to do that, I'll need 2 layers of sponge that are 8 inches in diameter. So I have one 8-inch cake pan, and I sprayed it and lined it with parchment. So that's ready to go for 1 layer. Then I don't have a second 8-inch cake pan, but I can use my cake ring because I'm gonna place it on parchment paper on a flat sheet pan. And this batter is not very liquid, so I should be able to spread it inside the cake ring on the parchment, and it should bake just fine like that. Okay, so that's how I have this set up. And then my second sheet pan is for me to pipe the Ladyfingers. So first, and if you wanted to use a scale and measure the amount of batter that you put on each cake pan, you can. I'm not going to do it. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. These should be thin layers of cake. They are not thick. I'm gonna use the offset spatula. I'll put a little bit more in there. Okay. Again, because this is a gentle batter, don't push it too hard. Push it very gently. I would say it should be approximately 1/4 of an inch thick in the bottom of your pan. Okay. Try to do it as evenly as possible. You don't want to have any thin spots, otherwise that part of the cake will burn before or cook faster than the rest. Okay, then do the same for my cake ring. Okay, now if you were to be using a cake ring like I'm doing here, the important part is not to move it around. So with one hand, I'm holding it steady so it will stay within the insides of the ring and not get batter on the outside. Okay, we're just about there. My oven is preheated to 375 as it is specified on the recipe. So it's all ready to go as soon as your batter is done. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit more on both of these on what I see as the thin spots, and then the rest will be for Ladyfingers. Okay. That's good. It's kind of hard with the large offset spatula to get inside the smaller size cake pan like this, but I think I just about have it. Okay, so that one's done. Let me get that one in the oven. And now, let's pipe some Ladyfingers. So, I have my disposable pastry bag. If you were to have a 1/2 inch plain pastry tip, I think that would be a good size. I don't have one. This one's a little bit smaller. It's also about the same diameter as a coupler, so you could use either one. But like I said, it's something slightly bigger than that. This is probably 3/8 of an inch, so a 1/2 inch would be good, but this will do just fine. So get the pastry tip inside the pastry bag, like so. I have my second sheet pan with my parchment, and I am going to use a little bit of batter to glue my parchment in place so that it doesn't slide around as I'm trying to pipe the cookies. Okay, so that's all it takes, and that should hold it steady. Okay, so again, to load the pastry bag, you make a collar around your hand. I'm right-handed, so I hold the pastry bag in my left hand. Use your rubber spatula and carefully fill the pastry bag. Now you don't want to overfill your pastry bag. I think I can get all the batter that I have left in here without worrying about it being an overfull bag. Let me try to get everything out of the bowl. Okay, stop it. Ready? Okay, so this one is actually even longer than I need. I'll do them a little bit shorter. If you were making true Ladyfingers, they would be a little bit longer than this. So I pull, and then when squeeze, pull and squeeze at the same time, and when I stop squeezing, that's when the batter releases. Okay, they don't need to be spaced out very far from one another because there's not a lot of spread. Keep twisting and keeping my pastry bag tight. I have a little bit of a wrinkle here I want to flatten out in my parchment paper. So maybe about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch apart from one another. That's fine. Okay, I should get them all on here. And I think from the tiramisu that I'm planning in the 8-inch cake pan, this should work out just perfectly, that I had enough of the Ladyfinger batter to make my 2 layers of sponge and enough Ladyfinger cookies to use for decoration. And I just have a little bit more batter, and I'll squeeze them on this one pan. Get everything out of here that I can, and that's about it. Okay, now there's one last step for the Ladyfinger cookies. To give them a little bit of color on top, they're usually dredged or dusted with powdered sugar. I keep my powdered sugar in one of these little containers that has the nice mesh top, and then I can go around just like so and give them a really serious dusting of powdered sugar so that they'll take on some color when they bake. Okay, and that's it. And I'm gonna pop those in the oven, and they shouldn't take that long, maybe about 10 minutes.